Good morning, everyone. Ray and I will keep this brief. This session doesn't change much from year to year. Basically, we just roll forecasts forward. And sometimes some of them are up to date till 2016. Some aren't, just because of the way data comes in and our workload. But these are the forecasts that we pretty much try to keep up to date, because they underlie a lot of what we do and tell some of the basic stories of what are going on. So we'll try to keep it short and sweet. One key forecast is the broadband industry forecast of the life cycles, overall broadband households and life cycles of the various generations by speed. And we've been forecasting and tracking this for pretty much 20 years now. Actually longer than that, probably close to 25 now. And it's pretty much followed as what we had expected from the beginning, that the speeds just keep getting bigger, larger and larger as the technology progresses and as people develop new applications and so forth. So now, as you can see, we're well into the 100 megabit per second generation, and have started at what we call the 300 megabits in seconds and above, which includes gigabit service. And so we're just still at the early part of that line, so the furthest left one, simply because although it's widely available, at least 300 megabits per second now, it's still a premium service that very few customers are subscribing to. So most customers are still in the 50 to 100 megabits per second range. This includes both cable and telco type broadband. I well remember the days when people wondered why we even had 100 megabits per second on the chart. Because who needed 100 megabits per second? Well, now it's very common, as it's sort of the basic, the middling package to have that. So now we're looking at gigabit. This is a percentage of households that have streaming Netflix. It's been our proxy for pretty much online usage for over the top, since most of the over the top actually is Netflix, and it's the one that has most consistent data. And it's been slowly going up the curve. Has not been a particularly fast adoption, but it is continuing on track. Another measure, just online viewing minutes, is a percentage of total. This is on a scale of 10%. So it's definitely been increasing at a rapid rate, but we're still just getting probably to around 10% now. Putting it on full scale, you can see that this is, again, it's not a particularly fast adoption, which is a point I think Augie was trying to make yesterday, that if you look at the total number of video minutes that people spend watching TV, the traditional TV, it continues to be steady. The over-the-top is increasing much slower, and so we feel there's a substitution going on, but it's a very slow substitution that's going to take time to complete. This is the HTTV forecast, a forecast we've been actually making and keeping up with since the mid-90s. And it looked like it fell off for a couple of years, but I did get the latest data on this, and it's over 90% now. So most households now have an HDTV. More recently, we've been forecasting ultra-high definition television, and that's at about between 10 and 15% now, and following the curve that we expected. Actually, it's going a little bit faster than we expected. So that would put, by 2025, an ultra UHD 4K, if you will, in essentially every house. Not every house, but most people's houses. So if you're thinking forward, just like 10 years ago, you needed to be thinking about HDTV being pervasive. Now you need to think about 4K being pervasive. And of course, that's going to drive bandwidth, among a number of other things, since a 4K stream takes a lot more data than an HD stream. Unless there's some questions at this point, I'll turn it over to Ray to talk about the wireless forecast.
Like Larry's broadband forecast, we've been doing the wireless forecast for well over 20 years now. And each year when I update it, I keep looking for the big surprise. And I guess the people that forecast the sunrise and the moonrise do the same. But so far, one more year, and we're still pretty much on track. In the past, we were forecasting wireless customers Then we went to connections that included multiple connections per subscriber. And starting last year, we broke out the M-to-M type connections from the standard connections, people's hand phones, their tablets, their laptops, other personal items that are connected to the network as opposed to machine type connections. And we hear more and more about the standard connections reaching a saturation point. And we can see evidence of that. And some people studying it have came up with, in the U.S., slightly less than 80% of the people have a wireless device. There's still 21% of the people that do not. And they estimate that complete saturation would be around 85%. And of course, people with multiple devices bring the device number per person, up greater than the population, closer to 110 to 20% before complete saturation. But the growth now is in other types of connections, the M-to-M and Internet of Things of the future is where the growth will be coming from. Again, we're up there at 120% of the population, but there's a lot of people out there that don't and probably never will. People under a certain age, over a certain age, and people for whatever reason will not have one. But the total connections still are on a growth path. And as far as the intergenerations, that is tracking well. And as was pointed out yesterday, 5G will soon be on the chart and on the board. Right now, we just have 4G advanced and above. Field trials are starting now. By 2020, the standards will be available, and we'll add one more generation to the chart. And have no reason to believe that, the pattern of generation after generation will continue to march on. The driver behind it, of course, is more and more data needs to be carried over the network. And to do that, we have to have systems that are more efficient in cost per bit and have the capacity to carry it. And there has been an ongoing compounding rate of improvement with wireless capacity, very, very similar to Moore's Law. The news is no surprises in the forecast. We've been doing it a long time. They continue to track. The nature of the devices is indeed changing. The nature of the business will change along with that change. The way they're sold, the way they're marketed, the requirements on the network will be new challenges as far as that goes. The revenue, some are very low value items, some are very high value items, but it's a very diverse mix of types of connections out there.
Do we have any questions for Ray or for me or discussion time before we move on? We do that very efficiently, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.